All right, and we're live. It's time to go. Nolan just said he's pulling an all-nighter. It's 1:19 p.m. Any caffeine after 1 is danger zone.
Yeah, I'll be up all night. But
So welcome to the show. We're going to be doing a pre-Odyssey discussion where I'm sure it will devolve into Nolan ranting and raving about something. And then we're going to take a pause because we are going to watch the Odyssey this upcoming week, and then we will give you our thoughts right after that. So you'll have our before and after all cut into one episode for you to enjoy. It's fun how time works that way. So the point of this, I just kind of wanted to discuss. We have a Christopher Nolan episode. You are more than welcome to go listen to it. We did Oppenheimer. Nolan and I grew up watching Christopher Nolan. We'll go see all of his movies in theaters. I know it's an increasingly sort of like Reddit take that he's like this incredible director and everyone loves him, and then there's the sort of other side where people say he's overrated and whatever, but you and I obviously will go watch all of his stuff in theaters because we like his stuff. Yeah.
Christopher Nolan is a good ancillary auteur. He's like a good toe dip auteur. Most of his films are like mainstream, easy to digest, fairly commercial. I mean, some of his films could have just as well been rated R, and they get the PG-13 rating to appeal to a wider audience. I mean, this guy directed 3 Batman movies, so like he's as mainstream as it gets. Like this is a mainstream guy, a commercial filmmaker who happens to also be one of the only filmmakers working today, and really in the like post 2000s world, which saw the end of a lot of different auteurs and a lot of like working heavily working directors who were making a movie every year. That period of Hollywood is over, and Christopher Nolan is kind of still a very traditional, successful auteur in an old. He makes movies the old way, not the new way, and part of that is surrounding the release of the Odyssey, just as it would have surrounded the release of Oppenheimer, and to a much lesser extent, Tenet. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm excited to see every movie he makes. They're great to see in theaters. Part of the release of this movie is that like every movie where he's had total control, he's released it with 70 millimeter or 35 millimeter prints, so you can watch the film projected on film as opposed to watching the digital cuts that go out.
Yeah.
Because Christopher Nolan is one of like 5 of these, aging guys whose peak in terms of like their peak under probably his best films behind him, Christopher Nolan. I don't think he's gonna top what he's already done. And a lot of people said that Oppenheimer was his best movie. Those people have some people said that. I mean, it won Oscars. So
all right. Well, I'm glad we're having this discussion because that's holy shit.
That's the lead up to where Christopher Nolan is that like where he is in his career today. To me, he's cresting over the peak of his career and entering old man filmmaker mode. And
Oppenheimer is his best movie.
A lot of people were saying this. A ton of people. I'd never said this. I would never say this, but a lot of people were saying it. Technically, critically his most successful film ever because it won awards that his other ones didn't. So.
I don't really want to get into a capitalist debate here.
Right. So Christopher Nolan is as capitalist as it gets. His films are about commerce and making money, but deeper than that, obviously, his films have some through lines and some similarities, which we talked about very broadly in our episode about his filmography, which is, the nature of time in relation to a story and the meta reflexive or meta reflectivity of time recursively in the story. So all of his films have this sort of interplay between form and content, reflecting on the usage of time and the passage of time in the films.
Yeah, so
It's
I can't wait to see that happen in the Odyssey.
Yeah, so
Just the time travel.
Yeah, the Odyssey is a story that takes place over a long period of time. So however this thing is cut up, that's going to be, what Christopher Nolan's reflection is on it. I mean, Christopher Nolan always has the same type of protagonist. Obsessive, typically very cerebral man who he's lost and he has to somehow find his way back to the starting point. Which, I mean, the Odyssey is literally the story of how Odysseus returns home. That's the plot of this story. So
yeah,
it's a very literal interpretation of something Christopher Nolan has spent his career working on. The details of the story obviously have some differences between everything else Christopher Nolan has worked on, because Christopher Nolan's main subject, I would say, that his genre that he's most comfortable in is like hard science fiction, like not the fantasy side of science fiction, but like speculative fiction in a way.
Interstellar,
Tenet, Inception, Interstellar are all speculative fiction, like hard science fiction. They all do it in different ways.
Yeah, like it could happen. Like technically, like really, like squint a lot. It could happen.
None of it could happen. Even a little bit. But it's like
McConaughey behind a bookcase. No.
It does just enough descriptions of practical physics and just enough practical effects to give you the illusion of reality.
Oh man,
it's all about.
The people who love science just getting extremely incensed by Interstellar. Well, actually, that wouldn't really be the case. It's a decent rendition of how like time travel would work, and you looking like through the bookcase. Shut up. It's meant to like visually show you, like how else are you going to show that in like a great way?
Well, because it's a commercial film, the only possible way to sell it to a mass audience is to not show you but to tell you, and that's my problem with Interstellar, and that has been a problem I have with Nolan as a filmmaker. He shows you, and he shows you really well, and then he tells you that he showed you, and then he tells you that he told you, and then you're like, okay, this is extremely condescending, Chris. You made this for children. And then the children, they clap, and they say, ooh, what a pretty movie. But then we get to the Odyssey, where people, before this even came out, there has been a coordinated campaign that I assume is a marketing strategy pushed by Universal or something. Like, this has to be a deliberate strategy to get people to hate watch this, to drive buzz, because there's more ability to drive people to the theaters to ironically watch or to watch something as there is to watch it unironically, which is also a way that children's movies get billion-dollar.
They're just rage baiting to drive ticket sales.
Yes. So all of the free buzz that this movie got has helped this movie to already be a hit. Like, it's one weekend in, already a hit. Just crazy. Because otherwise this shouldn't be a hit. This is like a weird art film shot on IMAX that's not actually an art film. It's just like Christopher Nolan's other movies.
I tried. You and I have we're big proponents of like trying not to spoil movies for ourselves, so like we try to stay away from like media and stuff. I know other people on the other end of the spectrum who are like, nah, I'm just gonna read everything and find out everything about the movie before I watch it, which is whatever. I just like the surprise and being overwhelmed by the originality and authenticity that I'm being overwhelmed by a piece of art. But what I was gonna say is I saw some interview. I think it was with Anne Hathaway and Peter Parker, whatever that kid's name is again.
Tom Holland.
Yeah, Tom Holland, and they were discussing how Christopher Nolan is shooting it on IMAX, right, with IMAX cameras. And when you're trying to, when you shoot with IMAX cameras, the machine itself is really, really loud. So they had to build and construct this entire rig to try to like soften the noise and like contain the noise of the camera itself. So they bring it like right up close to the actors themselves, and I guess they did a lot of scenes with like mirrors to try to like assist the actors to have some level of like authenticity when they were doing like shot reverse shot or something like that with each other, because otherwise they're just staring like at this like iron lung device looking thing, which is kind of funny that it requires that level of gear, I guess. What?
The whole IMAX of it is this is a problem. This is a problem on this one.
You mean as like a bit or what?
The whole bit of this being this is the only movie ever shot fully in IMAX. Like
that's not true.
This is
no, I never said that.
No, that is true. That is objectively true.
What was
It's the only film shot exclusively in 70mm IMAX. The only one ever.
What was that war movie shot on then?
What war movie?
The one that he did.
Dunkirk?
Yeah.
I mean, they shot parts of it in IMAX. This is the only one to be shot entirely on 70mm IMAX.
Cool.
No, this is a selling point of this movie. This is like a part of the way they are selling it.
I'm aware. There's only 20.
Cinephile's dream.
There's only 20 exclusive theaters around, and if you don't get to one of those theaters to watch it in 70mm, you've actually missed out entirely. Don't watch the movie anywhere else. I've seen it.
Christopher Nolan has basically sold people on the idea that IMAX is a specific look and his films have that look. That's not true. Christopher Nolan shoots movies in a peculiar way. In fact, in a way I would say that is often suboptimal or even sub-cinematic at times. And this one is definitely going to be a offender of that rule. Like, there's no reason to use exclusively IMAX when you're shooting this many like weird close-ups, because IMAX isn't meant to shoot a bunch of stilted close-ups in low light. That's just not what it's for.
Yeah.
They have really great cameras for that. They've been using them since the early 70s, and Christopher Nolan knows that, and he's just doing this as a bit because he hopes that by continuing to use film and IMAX film specifically with those big bulky cameras that you're talking about, that more people will keep doing it. Because if he's commercially successful, someone else can. The problem is this movie is like self-funded by him.
Yeah.
His Syncope production company, and he's not currently producing other films.
That's what I was gonna say. No one else can do this.
No, he's alone at the top. The only other filmmaker even at his level is Denis Villeneuve, and he has just been operating on. He's like making Batman. He's making these commercially stable tentpole movies for Warner Brothers. He's just 10 years behind Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Like, once Villeneuve finishes and hopefully doesn't implode the Dune series with this Dune 3 movie, we'll talk about that another time, about how that's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, we got to save that one.
Yeah, so that he's the only other person that's making this type of movie that's still shooting real movies. But like, an issue I have with Tom Holland talking about this is that Tom Holland is not a thespian. Like, Tom Holland is not an actor. This is just like a kid who can do backflips who plays Spider-Man. Like, this guy's not a real actor. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, when he's saying like, "Oh, the camera was," it was
mostly Anne Hathaway. To be clear, it was mostly Anne Hathaway
saying, "I'm Matt Damon." No, enough of that. Matt Damon is so far past his prime. And the best performance he ever put in was when he played himself in that movie in Boston.
Hey, how about them apples?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you like apples? Well, I got her number. How you like these apples?
Oh, Jesus.
All right, Matt. Okay. That's how he speaks in the movie. This is not... Yeah, and Anne Hathaway also well past her prime. I mean, we're nearly 20 years past Rachel getting married. This lady's had 2 bad plastic surgeries. Her eyes don't work anymore. It's over. So all that being said, this movie could probably... I'm just imagining our conversation right after we pause this for the listener, because we're doing a time skip. We're doing a Chris Nolan where we watch the movie and then it's just bam. All right, here's our thoughts. Yeah, so we
Just shit on Matt Damon, shit on Tom Holland. Travis Scott breaks in. Anne Hathaway.
My concerns with those actors, what's funny is those aren't the controversial casting choices. The ones that are controversial are Lupita Nyong'o and Zendaya and
I'm aware.
Paige, because those three in particular play characters with different skin colors or something. Now, I don't know.
People get really upset.
People don't know. These are the same people who are like, well, actually, I'm like 99% Italian. It's like, oh, so you're African. Because genetically, Italians are just Africans. And then they go, oh, that conflicts with my racist views. Oh,
right.
I can't. Oh.
No, the Elliot Page, I got a text from someone who watched the movie and I stopped reading it, but they mentioned Elliot Page at the beginning. I stopped reading it because I didn't want it to be spoiled. And it started out by talking about people who like were hating the movie because of Elliot Page's role in it, and it's like, dude, like we got to move past this. Those of you that don't know who Elliot Page is, just look up Elliot Page. It'll become clear why people are against they, them.
Well, people don't like Elliot Page because he was she once, so you're not allowed to do that. That's too scary.
And
that's too many changes in
and
person.
Nyong'o, it's obvious why people have a problem with her being cast in it. Racism.
Yeah, I mean the talking points that I heard were very straightforward. I mean the whole bit is they never say the exact words because that's what dog whistles are for. But the argument is, well, Helen of Troy is the most beautiful woman ever, and Lupita Nyong'o looks great, but and then they don't say anything, and the implication is because black people could be the most beautiful ever.
Yep.
Which is just racist. I mean, Lupita Nyong'o has, unfortunately, like with many of these delusional Hollywood narcissists, just done a terrible job in the promotional tour of this film by being a delusional, well-paid celebrity narcissist. And so that makes it easier for racists to cherry-pick her weird interviews and go, this lady's a wacko. I can't believe it.
Right. Like, we're trying to defend Lupita, but then she's just not helping herself.
Yeah, and she's a great actor, so I'm actually not worried at all about that. But also,
damn, she's 43.
Yeah,
she looks great for 43. That's wild. Yeah. I had no idea she was 43.
Right. But this is a Christopher Nolan movie. Like, I'm not going for the performances, and like, we're not going to get a generational performance out of Robert Pattinson or Tom Holland. Zendaya pretty much has two modes, and she does them well. She'll be fine. Charlize Theron's a great actor, probably the best actor in the movie, honestly, by a lot.
Yeah.
But the acting doesn't matter. These are models. Like, these are just like Zendaya is a model.
Right.
She was used as a model.
Pattinson model.
Yes. Yeah. Like, Robert Pattinson in Tenet is not like, this is not a thespian performance. Like, he's not reading monologues. He's literally like, hey, chap, want to go through the time machine?
Yeah, it's literally just good-looking British guy.
It's schlock. And that movie worked well, but the Odyssey is, people are pretending like it shouldn't be anything other than schlock, and if it's just good schlock, I'll be happy. Now, it's almost 3 hours long, and the thing with IMAX movies is you can't make them more than 3 hours long because the amount of film it takes to feed into the IMAX is too big. So the cutting of Oppenheimer and of this film, from a technical standpoint, is interesting because the film is too big. So they have to cut it before it reaches like 178 minutes or something. That's like the cutoff.
Oh man, I really want to see like the director's cut of one of those just to see what is cut out. That said, I do want to
director's cut because he has final cut on all of his movies.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I do. Are you going to see it in 70mm or are you seeing it in IMAX?
I don't even know where to see it in 70mm. I'm sure one of the 15 locations or whatever is in DC, but I'm not going to go see it.
The theater, I have an option for 70 millimeter, but it's not 70 millimeter IMAX, so I didn't select that one. I chose IMAX XL because that just seemed like the right move. That is what I watched Obsession in, and damn, the sound in XL is overwhelming. Um. Anyway, yeah, I don't really have too much more to say about this other than I read the Odyssey loosely as a freshman in high school. Don't know that I ever actually finished it because it was towards the end of the year, and I think my teacher literally was like, "Yeah, we're good." So unfortunately, never finished the Odyssey, even though I teach English. So might have to do a study um, of that after watching this. Did you want to talk about anything else, like the story, or did you want to talk about that other movie you mentioned offline, or is this enough discussion?
Oh, yeah, I mean there's been a ton of adaptations. I mean, we've actually touched on at least two of them on this show before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh brother, where art thou? Actually, the part of the meme of our name
Yeah,
is an Odyssey movie, so that's funny.
that's true.
Uh, it's still funny, that the Oh Brother Where Art Thou is far from my favorite of the Coens films, and not even to me a particularly good adaptation of the Odyssey. Just as like a surreal comic adventure,
It's just a
it's a great movie.
creative. It's a creative, like ambitious attempt, I guess, and it is
Yeah,
funny.
it's a creative it's a creative adaptation of it, but
Yeah, that's right. You've
um
got the sirens. Yeah, I forgot about that.
yeah, and the giant, there's all kinds of stuff in there for it, and yeah, so technically, the technically, Troy has a lot of overlap. The film Troy, Wolfgang Petersen's Troy, has a lot of overlap because that's a very bad adaptation of bits of the Iliad, uh, and vaguely other like legends of the Greeks.
I can
Uh,
just hear all the audience. I love Troy. You shut up.
Yeah, Troy's just a mid movie. There's just no way around it. We'll never cover Wolfgang Petersen on the show. Maybe there's a chance Das Boot gets mentioned at some point if we're talking about like boat movies, but otherwise, no. It's just there used to be films like Troy. There used to be like multiple a year. Like this is a good touchstone, sort of a time capsule for where Hollywood is and where film is today. Where like the Odyssey is the only one. There's only one big real movie that's being made. Technically two, because I think Dune comes out later this year.
Hmm.
But those are like the only big real movies that are made this year.
Yeah, it's pretty low energy on
Troy
the
was
big
like the
movie front.
Troy was like the eighth highest grossing movie of its year, and it was released alongside similarly a bunch of fake movies. So from 2004, if you want to hear the top 10 grossing movies of the year, Shrek 2, just made on a computer. Harry Potter 3, half and half. Half that movie's real, half is computer. Spider-Man 2, same thing. Half of that's just a computer. The Incredibles, computer movie. Passion of the Christ, a real movie. Same as Troy, just historical revisionism,
Is that Melly
nonsense.
Gibson?
That's smelly melly. Meet the Fockers, just a regular shitty sequel to a comedy, a real movie. Made hundreds of millions of dollars.
I love
Shark
that
Tale,
movie. That movie's funny.
yeah, it's fine. Shark Tale just made on a computer, and then Ocean's 12, a real movie. So just 20 years ago, you look back and you go, wow, the best movies of that year, the highest grossing movies of that year. And it was about 50-50. Now you look at it, it's just maybe there's one real movie, and then it's the same thing. It'll be like Super Mario number 4,
Holy
Minions
hell.
5, Toy Story 5. That's actually the highest grossing films of this year so far, by the way. Those are the actual ones. Um, and obviously, there's Obsession and Backrooms, which were surprise hits, but by the end of the year, they will not be in the top 10. They'll be buried underneath whatever other animated. Shrek 6, maybe, is coming out this year.
Oh boy.
But yeah, so Christopher Nolan still gets my respect for making a real movie, and I'm sure it will be better than Troy, but that's what I'm comparing it against most directly.
Yeah, as far as expectations, I try not to go in with a lot of expectations. Again, I have tried to stay off of media to avoid them. As like even someone telling me their opinion on it is like kind of spoiling it for me, like coloring in sort of my own experience. So I will avoid that until the next 2 days, whenever we watch it, and then we will get back to you with our thoughts. But yeah, what I was saying is I don't have low expectations. I have pretty mid expectations for it, and I assume I will enjoy it and just try to approach it for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, there will be a lot of ways I'll analyze it. The first will be, what is this as a movie? Like, did I just enjoy seeing this as a movie? And then, once I sort of think about what the movie is about, like, did it work in that way? Does it work as a Christopher Nolan movie? What does it mean in relation to his other films? Because Christopher Nolan, for all the flack I've given him for his flaws, he is an artist in addition to being a commercial filmmaker. And so part of his understanding of his own work is building out a narrative as an artist, which, I mean, obviously Oppenheimer made a lot of sense in that. And Oppenheimer was actually one of the more bittersweet, if not outright cynical films of his career, which is rare for a guy who's always been willing to sort of make or take the low road and go for a audience pleasing ending as opposed to one that is a little more questionable. Obviously, with Oppenheimer, that paid off because everyone has the same fear of being annihilated by nuclear warheads. The Odyssey doesn't have a clean ending like that, so I don't really know. I have a feeling that, like, the way that people will criticize the movie will either be that, like, it's too boring, like the action scenes aren't good enough.
I didn't like that the ending was just dark waters and waves, and then the camera panned away. I didn't like that, like some shit like that.
Exactly. More contemplative of an ending as opposed to the, like, very lit ending of Oppenheimer. He envisions nuclear holocaust.
I mean,
the movie's probably gonna end with
waves. to go on like a bit of a theorizing here. I assume he'll try to do something like Inception, where not with a top, obviously, but like try to leave it to the imagination, like you said, like contemplative. Leave the door open, basically, for just like sort of interpretation of what could happen, but also kind of still positing this is the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, at worst, if this thing ends up being similar to Ridley Scott's Napoleon or equally bad to 2004 Troy, then like it'll just be just some other forgotten epic that didn't connect with people.
Yeah, I mean,
the high end.
People love Oppenheimer, apparently, like you said. I mean, I liked it. Dunkirk certainly has been kind of like, I feel like that one is getting buried. That one and like Tenet. Although more people are coming out about Tenet, even though they don't fully understand it. I don't fully understand it either, but
Tenet is the way that Tenet has grown on me is like in direct disproportion to the way that I view Inception over time.
Yeah.
Where Tenet I view a lot more like Michael Mann's Miami Vice or Michael Mann's Black Hat, where it's like an art film disguised under all the rigmarole of a big Hollywood production.
Yeah.
Whereas Inception is just like a really dumb script with a bunch of great ideas and a handful of masterfully executed set pieces with a bunch of very memorable moments, the super memorable ending, and the great score.
Yeah, but to my point, not to go down a rabbit hole here of all of his films, because we've already covered that. But Dunkirk, I think, is getting buried, basically, in like all of his movies. It's a period piece. It's a war movie, so.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it deserves more praise? Like, to me, Dunkirk is a very British film. It doesn't actually have a lot to say about war.
Yeah, so what I'm saying,
experiential film.
What I'm theorizing is hopefully this is like a step above Dunkirk, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's Dunkirk. Like it wouldn't surprise me if it's just like, all right, these are my top 10 Christopher Nolan movies, and obviously we're not going to talk about Dunkirk and the Odyssey because blah blah blah. I could totally see that being someone's take.
I got you. I mean, Christopher Nolan himself has spoken of Andrei Rublev and Ron as being his core inspirations for the film, so he's already set him up for failure. Basically coming off of Oppenheimer, which is a different direction in his career for someone who never really made a standard drama film, to knock a biopic out of the park and make it in a way that was unique to his own style, while also being his longest film and one of his most commercially successful films. That's all surprising. I think the Odyssey inherently won't stack up to Oppenheimer in that way. Like, it just won't be a project that he hits out of the park. And that it is supposed to be like the big epic one. It's also the blank check, like, I won Best Picture movie.
Yeah.
The directors always just miss because they hit their career peak. But that is the story of Odysseus. Like, Odysseus is the man lost from home, and it's kind of about his return to home and how everyone there was like, you're already a legend. Like, we don't really care about you anymore. We know of your history.
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting you bring that up, because the beginning of this conversation is kind of how Christopher Nolan's movies that he's making are like mirrors of what he experiences in his own life in so many words. Like you've already said, most of his movies is a man that is grappling with the overwhelming fact that we have limited amounts of time, and he loves making movies, but that takes him away from his family.
Right. That's the
so like he's obsessed with it. He's obsessed with art and making films and like the process of making films, but then he wants to spend time with his family, and he can't have both of the things.
But he can, because all his movies are produced by his wife. So
right.
So then we just know he's a liar. Just fucking Chris. You're making the movies with your family.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel bad about it. I'm actually Michael Caine. No, you're the main character in all of these.
I'm actually Michael Caine. Yeah. So what you're saying about Odysseus is in direct like parallel to kind of like where he is as an artist and his prestige, I guess, over time. Not trying to cram in his titles in my sentences, but yeah. So we'll see if it pays off, I guess.
Like, I don't remember if we talked about that when we talked about Oppenheimer, but that's obviously part of the similarity he felt between Oppenheimer. Not that he is in any way some sort of Prometheus bringing light to people, but that he did get a lot of flack for his like the way he made superhero films popular in a specific way that people now curse because they think that it ruined films and it ruined the history of movies and that superhero movies are bad, whatever it was. There's some similarities, and then, suddenly he gets all the accolades for making a big biopic movie, which in the biopic movie, it's like how Oppenheimer's like, I should have won this award 30 years ago, not today. So yeah, I'm sure the Odyssey will be a movie that maybe grows on people, but I mean, the rollout and marketing of how particular it's supposed to be watched and the IMAX stuff makes me think that its second life is going to be more limited than some of these other ones. I agree with you. It'll probably be like Dunkirk. It'll be one people don't revisit.
Yeah, because they're kind like, in a way, they are kind of employing cheap tricks to get people to watch it. But we'll see. Again, trying not to have like really, really high expectations, especially because that would set up the second half of this episode of us just bashing what we're watching. Yeah, can't wait.
We both come in and we're like, damn, Lupita Nyong'o was horrible in that movie, but Elliot Page was amazing. We just come out as racist but pro-trans.
I wish Elliot Page could have been the role of Lupita. All right, we got to get out of here. On that note, we'll be right back. Time skip. Let's do it. We're rolling here. So yeah, welcome back. We've since watched the Odyssey. It was terrible. Can't recommend. Just skip it. No, we're joking. Yeah, we are not in the biggest time crunch. We do want to kind of keep this tight. Not because of the time crunch we're in, but more because honestly, prattling on about another Christopher Nolan movie seems a little meaningless. So we'll try to keep it a little bit more tight this time. Cut to 2 hours later.
I've got plenty to say.
Yeah.
There's deeper analysis here, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure.
That analysis is why they cast Lupita Nyong'o as.
It's not how you say her name. All right, let's open with kind of like I wrote some stuff down like right after I saw it. First of all, did you like it?
I did. This is a great movie.
Yeah.
This movie, I've said it a bunch of times. Three quarters of this movie is a masterpiece, and bits of the conception of the film are a masterpiece. But unfortunately, there's just too many flaws for the thing to be labeled as even a flawed masterpiece.
Yeah.
That's broadly how I felt.
Yeah, I don't really like the whole like ratings thing, but for the sake of discussion, yeah, and Letterboxd, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, so 8 out of 10 is a great movie in my book. But yeah, not a masterpiece. The one thing that I wanted to mention off the bat is it reminded me of The Green Knight in a lot of ways. Throughout the movie, I kept coming back to that point. Like, it just kept coming up in my head, that it reminded me so much of The Green Knight. And part of that is because the stories themselves are kind of similar, or at least the way that you could like execute them, with like the sense of magic and what happens with, is it King Arthur or is it Gawain? Gawain is the green.
It's Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is the specific Old English story that it's based off of. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm citing the movie. When did that come out? 2019?
2019.
Yeah. And that one just reminded me a lot of that. So if you haven't seen that, I would encourage you to see that if you liked this movie. Yeah, I think that the movie knew what it wanted to be, and it executed that fairly well. Zeus's Law, I think, worked as a pretty strong framework for the most part. Obviously, you can sense that it has the fingerprints of Christopher Nolan in the movie, just with using Zeus's Law as a framework, but then also like the little like idols, right? Like he's always got that one object that he kind of comes back to, one or two objects in his movies.
He's a MacGuffin user. He loves a good MacGuffin.
Yeah. So the goddess of Athena, right? That was this sort of totem that he had from his wife that he hung on to throughout his Odyssey, throughout his journey. Yeah. I'm not sure where you would like to go from here. I guess we can kind of keep lauding the movie and then work our way through the plot, characters, what we didn't like as much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm perhaps the most logical place to start is with our expectations.
Right, since we did just do that.
Conversation was before was, what we expected maybe would work and what we expected wouldn't work, or what we would get out of it or not. I don't remember what our expectations were. I remember hopefully I said that I thought it would be good, but maybe it would be flawed. Primarily, I was not concerned with the bulk of complaints about the film, which thankfully were not relevant at all. Yeah, let's talk about positives before we get into negatives, because I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Nine major positives and
I thought you
three.
were counting the negatives.
No, no, I have nine major positives. I have nine major positives and three major negatives. And so that's where the negatives are the negatives are simply too extreme to call this a masterpiece. Even though I think it's fair to say this is a master work that is far from Nolan's opus that contains some of his best sequences and also easily some of his worst.
Yeah, that's fair. No, we're. I don't want to say we are trying to be more positive. I feel like every time we record on something, we are literally talking about things we like, and then the
Ooh,
conversation the conversation has like nine positive talking points, and then we key in on the two that we're just like, oh, dog shit, can't get past this. But yeah, let's be positive.
so first thing to talk about is what about the adaptation do you like? So I guess that's the like let's start with the story since like most people go to the movies to get a story to be entertained by a story, and the Odyssey is an ancient oral tradition, a backbone of BC literature, like perhaps the backbone, you could say, of like Western literature in terms of ancient Greek literature. Um, Homer is a real OG in terms of what we think about when we think about literature. And though, even though the Odyssey is not a novel per se, because you know, it's not that's not the structure of it. Um, it was an oral tradition for how many centuries before it was actually even codified as a written work, and then passed down partially and due to the fact that the popularity of old Greek myths seems to continue to have some sort of place in Western canon.
Well, I liked the fact that there was that sort of like passing down of the oral tradition throughout the movie. Like it was told from this person's perspective within the story at this time, then to this person, then to that person, and to that person. Um, and the pacing of that worked for the most part. I would say there were some times where I was like, all right, like this is a bit much. We've done this before. The mystical aspect of like each time they land on like the shores of something, I think worked. It also made me realize that I just did know this entire story. Um, Somehow I didn't read it freshman year of high school, but somehow or other obtained it through osmosis. I don't really know. Um, Either that or
I mean,
like when we were
as a
kids, we had some like storybook or something of this. I forget.
I think that's just how ingrained this story is in Western culture. That if you are in the as a part of the Western canon, the same way that like Shakespeare invented 800 words that we still use today, but also Shakespeare's like story structure is something we still use today, and also just like some of the stories that he wrote originally are still stories we tell today. The same I think is true of the like core components individually as scenes within the Odyssey are things we understand today. The plot itself isn't necessarily like that common. I mean, in terms of like, you know, there's a man who's trying to return home and he undergoes a great journey, but this is like one of the OG heroes' journeys that is like what, Blake Snyder uses for his stupid beat thing,
Yeah,
or what Joseph Campbell would have based the Hero of a Thousand Faces on. It all comes back to this one way or the other, which obviously then makes sense that Christopher Nolan, having just finally won his Oscars, would go like, all right, time for me to rewrite the oldest story in the book to really put my stamp on things.
yeah, I would agree with all of that, and also liken it to Beowulf. In a lot of ways, like story wise, and who Odysseus and Beowulf encounter, and how they encounter that character. The main difference between the two is that um not that Odysseus is less honorable than Beowulf, but Beowulf is like a larger than sort of life character. and is, yeah, I would actually say is just more honorable than Odysseus, depending on your interpretation of him and the whole Calypso thing. But yeah, I think that the encounters that he has and his crew have is pretty realistic to the story, but also realistic to, like, if this were to actually happen, this is what it would look like and the encounter would look like. Um, like that one island. I mean, just name any of the islands and or the shores that they go to. The giant knights just decimating them. Um, I thought that
Yeah,
one was really
that's
cool.
the one that perhaps looks visually the least like how I've pictured
Yeah.
that part of the Odyssey. Whereas like the cave with Polyphemus, the Cyclops is like just that's exactly what it would look like.
Yes.
Uh
Yeah. Um, I felt like the stuff with Calypso was fine. It reminded me of Inception in a lot of ways, of like him being lost inside of the dream. I felt like that thread was pretty similar there. Um, yeah, I liked the I liked all of that. I felt like the fight sequences were pretty good. They got the blood flowing and the as I was watching it, I wasn't the biggest fan of the time, not manipulation, but where they were kind of like withholding information. But then as the movie got deeper, I liked it more because I could see why it was structured the way it was, which is obviously typical of Nolan's films as well.
yep. Yep. I
The
I
lighting
agree with
was solid as well. I liked the natural lighting. It reminded me in some ways of like who's the guy that did get out of here, Windows Security. Who's the guy that did
David Lynch.
that bear movie? Tom Holland, Leo.
Manuel Lubitsky.
They're like out. It's like all natural lighting, and they're in the wild. Fights a bear. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Emmanuel Lubitsky. I can't
He.
say his name any better than that. He's a Mexican cinematographer. It's
Oh, I meant the director. Anyway,
Alejandro Inarritu.
okay. I was gonna say
Yeah.
Inarritu, but I didn't want to say the wrong name. Um.
No, that's yeah, the
Okay. Yeah. I felt like it was reminiscent of that. Sorry, I interrupted you agreeing with me just to say the natural lighting looked good.
yeah, for the most part. I mean, the cinematography in this is a major point of contention.
Oh.
I mean, there are just technical mistakes. This film is riddled with bad cinematography. And I don't mean like, oh, I didn't like what I saw. I mean, it has like literal visual mistakes in it from the way they shot the film. Uh,
Like where people
so
are supposed to be in space, because I noticed that a
there
couple times.
there are editing mistakes.
Yeah.
There are also cinematography mistakes. Like they literally couldn't get the camera to work properly because they were dealing with a monstrous, heavy IMAX camera shooting film, and they just used the footage they got.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's a. I mean the you just pointed out two of my three only flaws. One is the story structure doesn't actually do anything to help the narrative. Like there's no real relationship by breaking things up non-linearly other than to show at the very end of the film that Odysseus is, acting the way he is in defiance of the gods because he views their support of, Agamemnon's war as being something that kills innocent people. Therefore, the gods are wrong, and that gives him trauma. So the whole movie is about his trauma as a warrior and holding the gods or viewing the gods hostilely because of that. The
Yeah.
non-linear breaking up of the narrative, especially with regards to like where is Odysseus in relation to Telemachus, That just doesn't work at all. It doesn't add anything. It could have been told more linearly.
Yeah.
Especially for the fact that like the moment where that reveal happens, that Odysseus is like seeing the Zendaya version of Athena is just Zendaya's character in the movie was just some poor lady that got massacred during the sacking of Troy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that moment works really well. Like that reveal is great, but that reveal isn't great because it was broken up non-linearly. Like you could have still revealed that as a
Yeah.
surprise, but everything else didn't need to be cut up in any way.
My least
Uh,
favorite part of the movie, actually, now that I think about it, is when he like has to give himself up to the water to like Poseidon, and he's just like fucking floating along, and then that part was fine. It was cool, but for a movie that's near 3 hours, it just cuts to him on the shore, and he just wakes up, and then Zendaya is there and just smiles, and then he's like, "Where am I?" And then she's like, "Don't you recognize the shores of your homeland?" And he just looks up and he's like, "Oh shit, I'm home." And you're like, dude, what?
journey's done. We did.
This whole thing is this like epic journey to get back home, and you gotta give up to the waves, Odysseus. You gotta get on your stupid raft and float down, float down the ocean, and then boom, he's just there. I felt like we could have had a little bit more like Lieutenant Dan epicness to it, but I don't know. Guess I was wrong.
Yeah, so the part of my issue with the visual nature of the film is that when it works well, the fact that it's shot on 70 millimeter is excellent, and watching it in IMAX amplifies it even more. The surrounds, I mean, this is one of the best sound design movies I've ever seen. The sound design was extremely crisp and certainly the best of Nolan's career in terms of absolutely blowing out your eardrums, but
Yeah.
also the detail, the care, the sound edit. Like if you're gonna study a film for its sound editing and its sound mixing, both on the low end of sound and the high end of sound, and the way that sound actually guides the rhythm of a movie without the music being relevant. Also, the music's great in this movie. Like this is the perfect one to study.
I did
And
have an issue with the dialogue, though. It could have been the theater that I was in. I was in IMAX XL, so maybe the mixing was a little different with the dialogue, but some of the dialogue sounded like choppy and almost like AI edited. Like, you know, when you're watching an AI video and the dialogue just sounds a little off? That's what it felt like sometimes with people talking. And I don't know why that was, but if you didn't experience it, maybe I was just tripping. I don't know.
I view a lot of dialogue as just another sound in the mix. I don't view it as like the coherent thing to tell me the story. So like I process
I normally don't view it that, like, I normally view it the way that you're talking about, but there were scenes of him. There was one scene where Damon was talking with Spider-Man on the cliff, and they're just going like back and forth, and it like hurt to listen to from both of them. And it could have been a delivery thing, it could have been a mixing thing. I don't know what it was, but I picked
yeah,
up on it earlier too.
I never had that problem once. The only unintelligible noise in the movie for me was when the Cyclops was talking, and that is very deliberate.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, the sound mixing is great. The music is great. This movie will win Oscars for that. It'll win Oscars for production design. It'll probably mistakenly win for cinematography just because the ambition is greater than the actual execution. And I do think that that is actually a credit to Christopher Nolan, not to Hoyte van Hoytema, who is Christopher Nolan's cinematographer. Um, for those who've been following along the Christopher Nolan saga, you know that Wally Pfister was the OG who shot Nolan's first 6 films, and Hoyte van Hoytema has shot the rest. Because Wally Pfister got too big for his britches, decided to branch out on his own as a director, and blacklisted himself by being both a bad director and an intolerable personality.
Damn.
Whereas Hoyte van Hoytema just loves making movies with Christopher Nolan and some other people.
And isn't a bastard man.
That we know of, yeah.
What are some of the other things you liked?
So my negativity with the camera work is like so overshadowed by like when it works. The decision to shoot in IMAX is just like extremely good. And so like most of that extends to the fact that like so much of this film was shot on location, not shot in a soundstage. The stuff shot on the soundstage is like you just shouldn't have shot that in IMAX. Like you literally wasted your time and made it so much harder on yourself. But like all the other times it makes perfect sense and is wonderful. And so like some of those scene like the repeated scene that they choose to cut to of like the sun setting, like hmm, choice on the IMAX, but like especially
That reminded me
the
of
action
Pirates of the Caribbean. There's some
same.
pirate
Oh yeah.
shit.
But the stuff on the water in this movie is like just so much better than so many other on location films shot on boats.
It's true.
I mean, we're talking about like Jaws level success, and Jaws is a goated movie that is shot infamously
Yeah,
on location on boats.
we could go on a serious rabbit hole of just talking about the crispness of the water and
The
like the different grains of like gray, blue, and then trickles of white in the quality of like in the quality of the waves.
I was surprised how much color is in this movie, given that Christopher Nolan is colorblind and often chooses a more muted tone for his films. This has a fair amount of color. The reds and the greens, which are usually not. He's more of a like puke green blue kind of a guy. The oranges and the reds really came popped in this one, so that's
You
good
just
for
switched it
Nolan.
up to orange. What color were the sails for you?
Red.
Oh, I liked the burnt orange. I was a big fan of those burnt orange sails.
Well, the orange and the blue is like a coloration problem that occurs on the modern digitization process of film. That usually happens in the post production that I've never seen them be able to fix well, especially when then projecting it again. But thankfully, the whole point of, and this is way too technical, the point of shooting on IMAX is that when you shoot on the IMAX film and then you project it, it stretches the image longer. So you basically get an even bigger print from what you've shot on. So the whole point is that like you shoot in space and underwater and shit with IMAX cameras because it blows it up so you get an even better look on the film. Which is why you don't ever shoot a shot reverse shot scene in a cramped room with low lighting on IMAX. But that doesn't matter because most of those scenes work. There are some that are bad,
Do
but
you wanna
whatever.
do you wanna
Uh,
intersperse your third gripe about the movie now so we can come back to positives instead of like cruising down, we can just like trickle this in, sprinkle it in.
um, sure. The casting for this movie basically renders this thing as pop art. Like some of the casting choices are brilliant and work superbly well to the point that it's like, oh shit, this is like probably my favorite Matt Damon performance I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easily the most interesting work that
I was very
John
dubious over.
Leguizamo has done in a while.
Yeah, yeah. He was great. He was really good in it.
It reminds me, I forget if I told you or if I told somebody else I was talking to about the movie that John Leguizamo as Emmaus, who's just some blind beggar. The performance reminded me a lot of The Passion of the Christ, specifically of Harvey Keitel as Judas, where Harvey Keitel plays a very militant, very New York Judas. Like literally, he has a New York accent in this movie about Jesus. But he's amazing in the movie. It's similar to this, where Leguizamo occasionally just does his really dumb accent, but he just murders the. He's amazing in this movie. Anne Hathaway is better often than she's mediocre. She is at times not my favorite actor in the movie, and part of that is because um, the way that Anne Hathaway is an incredible actor with some severely underrated performances. Most of them are not her most famous movies. I don't want to get into Anne Hathaway now, but the plastic surgery that she had froze this entire portion of her face. The muscles don't move anymore because that's what happens when you get facelifts and um, these ones, the stretches and stuff. Is they it
With
renders your muscles.
the clothespins in the back, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it renders this stuff. It renders you incapable of moving certain muscles, which as an actor, that's one of the only things that matters. But these freaks in Hollywood don't seem to have realized that, and they just keep like injecting stuff and then like peeling. Um, so yeah, that
Read the substance. See our
yeah,
substance episode.
or just look at what Demi Moore did to herself. Um, So yeah, Anne Hathaway is mostly great, other than when she can't act because her face doesn't move. The entire supporting cast is awesome, with the two notable exceptions of John Bernthal, who's playing a character from a different movie,
Yeah,
which
that
we
was
both
my
agreed on.
comment. He's playing a different, like, he's not bad at acting, but he's just in a different movie.
Yeah, and like it's one of those things where it's like, I like John Bernthal. I like that he's in this movie. And then he just like shoots his bow and says something. You're like, that guy's in The Walking Dead. That guy's in Marvel. Like, what the fuck is he doing in this? It's not even that Odyssey is like supposed to be better, although the fact that this is one of those super pretentious movies shot on all IMAX, and it's like, clearly this is meant to be a better movie. Why did you then debase it for these pop art elements? Oh, for commercial viability. Right. And then, yeah, the other one is Tom Holland, who unfortunately makes multiple scenes lower quality because he's in them. And I was saying this to you not that long ago, that my theory is that because it's expensive to reshoot the film on IMAX, they probably just got great takes with other actors and didn't redo Tom's lines, which are fucked up. Which, maybe you're right, maybe I'm wrong, I just didn't hear it. Maybe the audio is wrong in those scenes and they couldn't reshoot them or something. I
I
think you could just ADR it.
I
But
have a comment here that I wrote down. Delivery of 40% of the lines in the movie could have been better. It sounded odd. The dialogue sounded off at times. Whether or not it was from mixing with the IMAX cameras, I'm not sure. Most of the lines I'm talking about come from Tom, because he has a lot of lines in the movie. And yeah, I do not hate Tom Holland. This is not a like dunk fest on Tom Holland, but yeah, he was not great in this movie. I don't know if they should have just cast a different person. We know why he was cast, because he's gonna bring in lots of people. Hey, that's Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man. Spider-Boy.
this movie's already made $700 million in
Right.
less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's fucking bananas. Oh my god.
Breaking it in.
Yeah, anyway, like Tom Holland works in other movies. Like he works as Spider-Man. I did not really like him as, what is it, Telemachus?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the right way to pronounce it, not the fucked up way I said it.
I don't Yeah, we're going to blow past that.
Well, they say it that way in the movies sometimes, so just in case you thought this was perfect.
Did you like Travis Scott's role? Were you a big fan of Travis Scott's 15 seconds of screen time?
I think that probably helped sell tickets, so sure.
Yeah,
Like,
I was gonna say I'm being a dick here on purpose, because I think it's funny that people are like, Travis Scott's in the movie, and then they're like, wait, where is he? It's like, oh, you showed up late to the movie, you missed him. Whoops.
I think that Christopher Nolan doesn't really know anything about rap, and he was just like, who's a popular rapper, because rap is an oral tradition, right? Like Christopher Nolan just being a boomer, like just literally like putting on his glasses and being like, who's this Travis Scott fellow? Like, what is he? Rap, you say? I've never
Rippity rap? Rippity
I mean,
rip
remember,
rap?
this is a guy who like wakes up and like puts on his glasses and like reads the paper and is just like, oh, these rappers are shooting themselves by the dozens out
Hippity
here.
hip hop.
He doesn't have a phone. Like, this guy is a boomer in all but execution.
Yeah. No, I bring up Travis Scott just to be a dick, because I liked him in the movie. I was a fan of it, and we as we mentioned in the preview episode, the first half of this, we know why people took issue with Elliot Page and Lupita Nyong'o, both of which were completely fine in the movie.
I think they hit home runs.
Yeah, like they both were great. I would say
they both have important beat required elements in the story, and both of them worked and made me feel something. So that means that their performances were great.
My meanest sentiments can't really find anything like wrong with what they put in, like the performance that they put in. I fully bought into their interaction. I mean, the cut that they did with Lupita, like in the bedroom, of just like that was awesome, and the scream like got you like a horror movie. Yeah, that was
also
that was cool.
Benny Safdie, great little performance. Had a physically imposing presence.
Yeah, true. He was Agamemnon.
Yeah.
Damn, I was trying to place who that was. Shit. Okay, that makes sense.
Hamish Patel was awesome as like kind of the number 2 on his crew.
He was a really good kind of like follower of Odysseus, but then also like detractor, right? Mm-hmm. Of like, dude, we gotta not do these things.
So Samantha Morton puts in an excellent performance in the Cersei scene.
Yeah.
She's the witch, Cersei.
Yeah. No, you said Cersei, and my brain went to Calypso. Yeah. It's just funny. There's a Cersei, Calypso. I understand the difference. What about Mia Goth?
Mia Goth is in the movie. You're right.
Did you like her? Did you like Pattinson?
Pattinson was great in this movie. Yeah. Mia Goth, there were some people in the movie, like Mia Goth was in the movie. I've seen great performances from Mia Goth. This wasn't one of them. It wasn't bad. It's like there was no meat on the bone for her.
She had what, 5 lines? 3 lines? I don't know.
That sounds right. Something like that. This was a 5-hour movie, I think. You can tell where stuff was cut.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff cut. The palace intrigue stuff, which is easily the weakest part, primarily because it includes Tom Holland a lot. It's the weakest material. Both the script is weak and the performances are weak. And also it's the part that utilizes the specialized technicality of the cameras. But I think there was a 5-hour cut of this movie that, like, I would rather watch the 3-hour one. But I think they probably won't ever release the long one because, like, Christopher Nolan cuts his movies and then releases. Like, he already has Final Cut. I don't think he's gonna release the long one. And we did talk about before how being able to use the IMAX prints to show on the projectors, you're capped at like 3 hours. So you just capped with time, so you have to cut down to that. So I just know there was more material they didn't use.
Oh, definitely.
And I'm sure that Mia Goth's role was probably expanded. Same with Robert Pattinson.
Pattinson did ham it up, though.
Get these beggars out of here! And Corey Hawkins as Polybus, the other Pattinson's like other rube, the other suitor.
Yeah, what is that guy in? Guy looks so familiar.
The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
that's probably where I saw him first. He was in BlacKkKlansman. He was in that Kong Skull Island. He was in the Macbeth. Joel Cohen's Macbeth. So
that's where I recognize him from. That's where. The one thing that I wanted to mention visually that was clearly intentional was the screens. There were a number of scenes where people's faces were masked by something, whether it was like rigging or it was, that one panel specifically where Anne Hathaway was behind it. I felt like the screen shielding faces was a strong visual symbol for deception, as well as memory being like clouded depending on whatever scene it was. That she was also weaving that tapestry, right? And then Pattinson basically called her out on unweaving it at night, so that she could claim that she was trying to make progress before marrying a suitor or whatever. But there was one shot where it was behind the tapestry, so the tapestry was between her and the camera, so her face was clouded when she was delivering the lines to him. Basically, adding that other element and removing her from having access and having people being able to look at her as Odysseus's wife, and I liked that um, as a visual symbol or metaphor. Um,
Yeah, no, I think that worked. I mean, it at first it felt kind of sloppy, like it because it feels very obvious the way it was like, oh, they, the same way that like they utilized the very specific type of focus that comes from using low light with IMAX cameras to blur certain parts of the frame. Sometimes it was done clearly as a mistake, and other times it was done with a deliberate directorial intention of like showing the clouded way that the characters are acting towards one another.
yeah,
The only time I saw that it didn't work visually was oftentimes in the action, where you can tell they just shot a big action piece and didn't want to reshoot it.
yeah.
I will say, yeah, I don't have too much more. I feel like we've covered a lot. There's a couple things I want to go a little deeper on. I will say one thing. You compared it to The Green Knight, which I think is a fair filmic comparison. That's another film about fate and sort of the determination of a hero.
I was just gonna bring
Obviously,
up another movie. I hope it's the same one that you're thinking of.
it will not be. Uh, so which one?
I was gonna say Dune, just from some of the ways
Hmm.
that it was shot and the color, especially when it's back at the castle. A lot of that stuff is similar. Not the way that people are dressed, but the framing and blocking of scenes. Sorry,
Yes.
the
Yeah, I did
ADHD
find
got
there to
in there.
be no, I found there to be similarities with Dune. I thought that while watching the movie, so I would agree with that. And I mean Dune as a hero's journey and an epic has similar themes, and those come through. And Zendaya is also in Dune.
Right.
And Robert Pattinson's in the new one, so that's exciting. All these actors just doing the same.
What were you gonna say?
Um, the films it reminded me most of would be Ben-Hur. Obviously, I think this is a massive improvement on Ben-Hur, which is a great movie, but extremely flawed, way more flawed than this.
Gotcha.
Um,
That's an epic.
yeah, and I mean, the similarity is like that's. I mean, that's about Romans. It's a time of Christ, so it takes place much later than the Odyssey, chronologically in human history. But it shares some similarities, and it's about like a man coming into his own as like who should be a ruler. He undergoes more of a journey as like a slave, but like there's a lot of visual references to that film specifically on boats, and this does those better. But the other film I would compare it to most readily is Fitzcarraldo, which is a Werner Herzog movie about a maniac who decides that he should build or move an opera house into the Amazon jungle. And that is a film about madness and the absurdity of ambition. And in a way, that is what this film is about. But also, Fitzcarraldo, very infamously, Werner Herzog labeled the film as like an embodiment of the character itself because the film became about not making the movie anymore, but in real life, moving this huge boat, a steamship in the Amazon over a mountain. And so the success of the film is that Werner Herzog got 100 random people in the Amazon to work for him to move the boat over the mountain. Like that's the last hour of the movie is they just get the boat and in real life they moved it over the mountain. And so Werner has repeatedly said in interviews from the near 50 years since that film's release, it was like, yeah, we did it. And it's a metaphor for the film itself, which is that, we did it for nothing. And in a lot of ways, this film reminded me of that in the sense that we went and we made the first movie shot in all IMAX 70 millimeter prints for nothing. That there's this epic scope, and that's like this is deeper than Fitzcarraldo, and this is a much better film. And Nolan is a better filmmaker than Werner Herzog, which is a conversation to be had in a different way when we talk about him. But obviously the way that this is about ambition is more about the guilt of ambition and the cost, which makes sense because Christopher Nolan's films deal with a certain amount of guilt and about the obsession with ambition. And in the course of his career, that makes more sense because, as we've seen over the course of his last few films, at least mostly in Dark Knight Rises and Oppenheimer in this, about the guilt of these heroes and the weight of the decisions they make in their journey as heroes.
Yeah, and the time structure that they chose to the way that they chose to do that does show that Odysseus regrets the Trojan horse idea, right? Because like it literally like the way they framed it is, oh, he's this great hero because he came up with this um idea, and they were able to defeat Troy, but then he regrets it because there's literal just shots of like people getting like about to be beheaded or raped or thrown to the dogs, basically. Um, but yeah,
Well, it's not even just that innocent people died. It's that it's deceptive and that it violates Zeus's law
yes,
because of the way that it's
yes,
deceptive. It's not
exactly, yeah,
honorable. It's
yeah,
that doesn't have the bow. He doesn't do the bow when he does the hunting. Not
yeah.
no honor.
Yeah, I was gonna mention a couple like thematic elements that I think worked well that also remain true to the story of the Odyssey. These are taking those lessons and like messages and framing them like in a more positive way for someone else's life. When you lose who you are, it's worth fighting to find you again. You will make mistakes, even betray your code. It's not okay, but you must learn and do better as you grow for those who need guidance and those that come after. The real one that came through, especially with Calypso, oblivion over ambition is as dangerous a poison as any. There will always be an easy way out, but you can't give up on yourself or others. And then I just have that seeing ancient stories come to life was really excellent. But there is that element in here of choosing oblivion over like hard work or over accepting making mistakes and pushing onwards. And I felt like that was pretty strong, even in today's day and age, just with people being addicted to things, choosing oblivion over one's hopes and dreams, choosing like the easy way out over sitting down and doing the work and trying to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve.
Well,
Um,
it's I don't think it's even about that for the individual. Like this what raises the stakes of the film is that it's the template for a leader. That's what Odysseus is always meant to be, and that's what
yeah.
the power of the end of the film ends up being.
Mhm.
When he comes back and he's massacring all these people who have spoiled his home, and they refuse to observe Zeus's rights and Zeus's law. The whole point of then the guys who decide to kneel down is that his power as a leader is all action and showing that like you need to have these elements of humility. He obviously had to go through ruin to learn them, but in learning them, he learned that like men's greed and the greed of the men under your own command cannot stop you from being the leader that you know you're supposed to be, which is a just one. And that like his defiance of the gods as a defiance of authority is him placing that defiance in the wrong place because he was really just defying his own ambition. And
Yeah.
it wasn't that his ambition was wrong, it was that his ambition without considering the cost
Yeah.
was wrong. And that is at the core of every Christopher Nolan movie.
Have you considered the cost?
Exactly. Well, other than Memento, where just the guy kills people, but that's
No, that one is just the direct absence of that.
right.
There is no consideration of the cost because there's amnesia. There is literal oblivion, which he chose
Yes.
and continues to choose. Um, yeah,
I will say the bowstring, which ends up being the sonic leitmotif for honor, when he hits that in the perfect.
yeah, that was fucking awesome. That was really
That
cool.
was got some good goosebumps. I mean, you knew it was coming too.
You, yeah, I was gonna say,
Oh, you know he's gonna hit him with the sound, but he hit. Oh,
Yeah,
So yeah, when this
because
movie works, it really
because
works.
they do that in the beginning, and I mean, what did Christopher Nolan teach us? You have to bring it back. You gotta close the magic trick, close the loop.
There was there was this one cut, like in the final scene, like the final little montage where they're like, there's some voiceover and stuff, and Penelope is seeing Odysseus, and it's not clear that Odysseus survived his wounds from the final battle, and she's talking about like the mess, what you learned from the movie, and it cuts to like Odysseus, and he has the thing on his neck, and he's like there, and he turns around. It is the exact same scene from the fucking Prestige when they say, "You got to bring Michael Caine. You got to bring it back." And like as the guy turns around, it is the exact same scene, which is a good example of how, when a filmmaker has found something that works for them, they just return to that well over and over and over again. They
There was
don't care because
another
it
there was
works.
another one early on in the movie that it was the way the camera was slowly moving, taking in the liminal space of the. It's not a longhouse, but like taking in that space, and there's the screen behind it, and it's the exact same way that they moved the camera across, like the workshop or
Mm.
something in the Prestige. Um, yeah, I felt like the movie. I was on board with the movie and was rooting for the movie and was like, damn, there's got to be some epic shit that's going to happen at the end. Like, obviously, kind of semi remembering how the story ends. And I felt like it had a pretty strong finish. When it ended, I instantly liked it more. Looking back on the movie, I saw the whole thread, which is like a classic Christopher Nolan move. Um, yeah, I don't really have too much more to say. I felt like it knew what it wanted to do. It had flaws, but it executed by and large um, a lot of what a lot of what its ambition was, which is impressive for a movie of this scope.
Definitely.
All right, that
Yeah.
wraps up the Odyssey. Until probably 3 to 4 years from now, when Christopher Nolan will be doing, who knows, some some small scale silly tale that caught his eye, or some other large epic where he redoes Indiana Jones. I don't know. I'm just throwing shit out here.
Hopefully he and Denis Villeneuve lose their minds, because like this is the point where I don't want to go too long, but this is the point
I
where
got 1 minute and then I have to leave.
when the director hits this point in their career, only one thing happens. They lose their fucking mind. So it's over for him. This was it.
The
This
Orson
the
Welles.
He jumped the shark. No, Orson Welles kept going. He never faltered. Even though this movie's about how Christopher Nolan has wisely learned all those lessons. Same with Villeneuve making Dune. But no, they're done. They're cooked, borscht.
We'll catch you guys on the next one. Adios.